So how do we defeat Batman?
It's simple. We kill the Batman.
If it's so simple, why haven't you done it already?
Well, it's not that simple. Ra's al Ghul, nor the Joker, nor Bane could find a way to destroy him. There's only one person powerful enough to carry out such a task. Bruce Wayne. A wealthy American playboy, philanthropist, and owner of Wayne Enterprises. One of the wealthiest, most powerful men in the world. And a vigilante superhero that can't be stopped by anyone. Let's go back where everything began. A night at the theater. An 8-year-old Bruce is attending with his parents' Mephistopheles opera, and after being frightened by the performers and his phobia of bats, he asks his dad if they can leave the theater. This leads to them exiting through the back door and being mugged by Joe Shell, who ends up shooting his parents in front of him. The guilt Bruce carries for being the main reason over his parents' death, mixed with the weakness to react in an environment where crime is the primary ruler of the city, is the seed that will sprout into what we call the Dark Knight. If he wasn't as weak as he was, he could have stopped the mugger. If he wasn't afraid of bats, they wouldn't have left the theater in the first place, and his parents would still be alive. If only the police were in charge instead of the criminals, none of this would have happened. Right? Let's take a closer look at the next scene where Bruce is able to voice his thoughts.
Alfred.
Yes, Master Bruce.
It was my fault, Alfred. I made them leave the theater.
No.
If I hadn't gotten scared.
It was nothing that you did. It was him, and him alone. Do you understand?
I miss them, Alfred. I miss them so much.
So do I, Master.
Bruce turns the blame to himself as the only way to cope with the trauma.
Do you still feel responsible for your parents' death?
My anger outweighs my guilt.
He takes the responsibility of fighting crime into his own hands because, frankly, if he doesn't do it then, who will? In reality, Bruce is a person who never managed to understand how to deal with loss and guilt. He feels alone in his struggle, as almost no one can truly know what it's like to carry all that weight with him.
But my dad got shot a couple years later over a gambling debt. And I remember that one just fine. Not a lot of people know what it feels like, do they? To be angry in your bones. I mean, they understand. And foster parents, everybody understands. For a while. And then they want the angry little kid to do something he knows he can't do. Move on. So after a while, they stop understanding.
Bruce had most likely not fully developed external awareness by the night of the murder, and had what is known as childhood egocentrism. Children tend to attribute everything that happens in their lives as a consequence solely of their actions.
Batman will save us. He'll come.
In cases of child abuse, some victims defend their aggressor and rationalize the abuse by assuming some of the guilt to feel like the outcome is something they were able to control.
I told you he'd come.
Bruce grew up believing this truth and internalized it as a defense mechanism to cope with his loss. He believed the reason he became a vigilante is to fight crime and prevent people from suffering the same fate as he did. Unconsciously, he thinks that as long as he puts on the cape and does what no one was able to do for him, his guilt will go away and he will feel better. But at the end of the day, he comes home and the feeling remains. Instead of making it go away, he feeds it, like a monster, and the monster grows. Every time he's unable to save the people from Gotham, his girlfriend, his friends, the monster grows. Bruce has been fighting the wrong enemy all along, and he's losing. The only problem is that he's unaware of this foe because he doesn't know it's hiding within himself.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
In the eyes of the audience and the citizens of Gotham, Batman is a hero. He brings criminals to justice and maintains order, embellishing the idea that an individual can truly make the difference if they don't stay still in front of adversity.
We're trying to help you!
I don't need help!
Not my diagnosis.
But for Bruce, it is not like that. For him, Batman is the real villain, the monster he's been feeding year after year, hoping to feel better and overcome his guilt. I feel sorry for Bruce, a guy unable to face his demons as they are feasting inside him. And as long as he's unaware of them, Batman will outlast what he really is.
But that's all part of living, sir. But you're not living, you're just waiting, hoping for things to go bad again. Remember when you left Gotham? Before all this, before Batman, you were gone 7 years. 7 years I waited, hoping that you wouldn't come back. Every year, I took a holiday. I went to Florence. There's this cafe on the banks of the Arno. Every fine evening, I'd sit there and order a Fernet Branca. I had this fantasy that I would look across the tables and I'd see you there with a wife, maybe a couple of kids. You wouldn't say anything to me, nor me to you. But we both know that you'd made it, that you were happy. I never wanted you to come back to Gotham. I always knew there was nothing here for you except pain and tragedy. And I wanted something more for you than that. I still do.
That's why the only one that can defeat Batman is Bruce Wayne.